Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast. Welcome. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, and you'll see me on the internet as Mars1, and we just saw a hell of a game. Like one of the most interesting games of this this week, rather, of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming versus Rascal Jester. What a series. Do you guys have any thoughts closing quickly before we go into our next game? Because that was a
Rascal Jester are going to feel
matchup.
really hard done by. Like they've gone 0-2 this week, but it was two very hard fought games against two of probably the best two teams in the league at the minute, at least performance wise. We'll see how the Hawks do in their last game here, but to go 0-2 despite having some killer performances, particularly from guys like Art, particularly from some really good early game objective control from Hachimecha, it's going to sting a bit. They're going to come out this week and feel a little bit hard done by. They haven't managed to pick up at least a win there.
Yeah, it was a weird one for them. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think that I feel like they have all the necessary talent to perform in these games, right? I think that they've very early found out that definitely that Art is a premier AD carry. I think he's arguably the AD carry which has been carrying his team the hardest. I think Honey did really well in that game. It's like, so for me, like when I'm thinking about like my tier list, my internal tier list of these AD carries now, I'm kind of like, so who's actually the most important to their team? Who's the guy who's really pulling their weight? And Art is doing so well.
Yeah, Art has been performing in so amazingly on their team. It's been just kind of phenomenal to watch man kind of pull out, even in spots where his team's losing, still really kind of turning it or really trying to go, guys, I think we can still do this. Just give me a chance, give me that opening, protect me, and maybe we can get there. And it was very close in a few of those fights that Art might have been able to turn it, and we would have seen Honey actually perish instead.
There's a lot of good AD carries in this league. Looking over the rosters, like some of the new blood, Honey, Archer, Gango coming in, have looked really great. Some of the old guys have also looked great. Art, Utapon, Utomashi, all looking really strong. So there's a lot of fantastic bot laners who are around about in this league at the minute.
Yeah, and I like how they've been looking good on different champions too. I like how it's not just a Aphelios. I like how it's like MF and also like Senna. Like Gango has some great Senna games. And then obviously now we've had like Art pick up Ashe, which has been really fun. That's like, he's got his own little pick, which he's doing well on, which has kind of slipped through a lot of people's consciences.
I mean, it's really cool to just see that happen. But with that in mind, we do have our fourth and final game of the day and the last game of week 2 for the LJL Spring Split, and it's going to be SoftBank Hawks versus AXIZ. The matchup for me to watch, and I'm kind of expecting, is going to be probably this mid lane jungle duo of Tussle and Ramune for the Hawks and Hoglet and Ganguro in the mid lane. I think that's gonna be a lot where this game could be decided, and I'm interested to see this. I'm obviously expecting the Hawks to kind of potentially win this game, but AXIZ definitely have something to prove here, and they've definitely shown up on some of their, and especially Hogler and Ganguro are definitely shown that they're not willing to go down without a fight. And I want to pass it over to both of you, Initialize and Nymera. Where do you think this game's going to go?
I mean, it's hard not to give a fairly hefty advantage over the Hawks in the way they've been playing. I think they're probably going to take this one fairly easily. However, AXIZ have shown me they can play the early game kind of well. They can pick themselves some interesting drafts, some useful, some kind of like some compositions which make sense, even if they're a bit out of left field, and can play the early lanes pretty well. They just need to find a way to come into the mid game not in a complete deficit, and also like not find themselves starved out entirely out of vision.
Yeah, I think that some of the individual players from AXIZ have shown really good early laning phases. I think that Galliardo's been a pretty good mid laner, I think, on the whole. He's not really been a weak point for them. We saw Hyde have that one really good Syndra game, and have some good laning phases outside of that one game as well. It's just really finding a composition where they're comfortable playing it in the mid game, comfortable playing it towards the late game, and also just knowing how to team fight around those picks. I'm not confident I've seen anything from them where I'm like, they can definitely beat the Hawks. I think the Hawks have been a solid kind of top tier team. I think they're definitely up there and like below DFM, but kind of up there with like Crest, and maybe up there. Yeah, there are a couple other teams which we'd consider up there as well. But,
yeah, Crest are the only team currently 3-1 in the league. This will be SoftBank Hawks going for that 3-1 to join them in that upper half of the beginning of this table. How it's gonna see AXIZ are gonna be fighting off to try and go 0-4 at the beginning. I am somewhat rooting for them because I would like to.
I love an underdog story.
You don't want to see someone repeatedly lose. You do want to see them win, and against someone like the Hawks, that would be a huge upset and a big boost of confidence for this team. So I do hope, at least for a very good game, a nice convincing game, team fights, skill intensive game. Obviously.
Fun game. Entertainment. Are you not entertained? Hopefully we will be.
I mean, we'll find out soon enough. Initialize, any closing thoughts before we go into pick and bans?
I want to see AXIZ draft themselves a comp where they kind of have very clear win conditions and can play the lanes out strongly. We saw Unyan in the last game get absolutely mauled by Eddie on the level 1. So just having some stronger early lanes so they can kind of get off a nice firm basis and not have to worry too much about playing macro games to stay in it for the mid game, that will set them up a lot stronger than they were in the last couple.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way, and hopefully they've taken that advice on in the past of the future of the past, because that's how this works. But as tradition in the LJL officially unofficial, I will count us in, because it's always a slight blast from the past for us. In 3, 2, 1. Good luck to both of the teams.
Alright, so we are finally into draft, and let's do some roster rundown. So, for the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, it is Dasher in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle, Ramone in the mid lane, and Honey and Poo in the bot lane.
And on the red side, for the second time this day, again, in the top lane for AXIZ, we have Unyan in the jungle, Hoglet, mid lane, Gariaru. Did you use the wrong... Okay, right. Did you use the wrong link, perchance? So we're going to have to do a count.
Apologies, everybody. That was my bad. As producer, I do try and juggle 3 or 4 things all at once, and I have grabbed the incorrect part of the stream. So hopefully my commentators can quickly just kind of do some like sketch comedy for you all lovely people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So while that's kind of being sorted, we'll talk a little bit about this. Like, this is the problem, right? When we try to cast across time. You see, we are powerful magic users. Clearly, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Or at least I am. I'm the caster. You're just a commentator.
Was that a Magic the Gathering reference?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I know that's kind of your strength outside of League, but I wasn't necessarily going there. But I'm sure. I'm not sure what we call a stream like this would be, like Mono Blue or something. I don't know my magic reference.
I mean, it's only Mono Blue when we. Do you remember AXIZ's first game when we were like, wow, these guys are getting hammered against V3.
AXIZ are definitely an aggro deck that wants to be control. They're not quite sure which way they want to go.
I think DFM are closer towards the blue style, you know, being like the whole kind of counter, more cerebral, have something in hand to deny you stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's that, yeah.
I mean, their logo
I know much about MTG.
Their logo is black and blue. They're 100% like all about that control and denial.
Black blue mill deck.
Oh yeah, I could so see someone like Siros just playing like some form of Demir agent who's just slowly taking all the information, and then the opponent has nothing left, and he's just like, I have max power.
Which region are they in Legends of Runeterra? The game which is more relevant.
Bring it back to this.
I would probably go Freljord. That's very blue-based. That's controlling.
Oh, buff up everyone else in your team with stuff like that. Although, I mean, I know that they play
like Anivia control is definitely the way I would assume DFM would probably play their game. Maybe. But this isn't DFM. This is the SoftBank Hawks and AXIZ. 2 very different teams. I think AXIZ are probably Demacia. They're all about that aggro. And the SoftBank Hawks, I guess I'd give them more Piltover. I think they're more of a Piltover.
Oh, some of the weird stuff in there.
Yeah, some of the but if you can figure it all out and bring it together, it's scary.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely, and that's why I do the card games, because I can pull out these references in clutch. But I have now got the correct point of the game. So hopefully
Huzzah.
we're about to just go in with 19 seconds on the map for 19 seconds on the
Yep,
timer
that's
for
it.
them.
Yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. It's like we're total professionals and we can do this together. All right, let's get this in. This is all going in the YouTube, by the way, 100%.
Of course it is.
Hi,
Of course
YouTube.
it is.
In 3, 2, 1. Good luck to both of the teams.
And we're back in, this time in sync. Synchronization has been achieved, so let's run down these rosters one last time. It's Dasha, Tussle, Ramane, Honey, and Pooh over for SoftBank Hawks Gaming.
And for AXIZ, it's Unyan, Hoglet, Gariaru, Hyde, and Corporal.
And we're looking at a very early Karthus ban. AXZ did show they're willing to pick that out, and the Hawks go, yeah, we don't want to have to deal with that. And the Lucian is the AXZ response.
This is actually the second ban of Lucian against the Hawks today. It's been banned in both games. Maybe it's something which Dasher or Ramane or Honey, one of those three, has been particularly scary on in their scrims and their solo queue.
And Syndra taken away as well. Of course, Hyde shown he's willing to take that down on the bot side, and Honey probably doesn't want to deal with that. Akali banned away, though. Very strong first pick, we said.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the Karthus is the real ban here, which is kind of targeting someone specifically, right? I think all of the others are pretty fit for purpose. They're all very flexible picks, but the Karthus, we saw Hoglet bring that out earlier. The only champion which he brought out besides the Rek'Sai on his first 2 games.
Cool, and we're looking to see what this last third ban is for the first round for the Hawks.
Yeah, and it is the Elise band there. I think that the Elise is, like we've been saying, one of the few champions that allows you to play through top lane. We did see Gragas played to a similar extent.
Cool, and we're seeing Set banned, but Rumble now looking to be a first pick here from the Hawks.
Okay, yeah, so this has been pretty much 100% presence in its own right, almost like a 3-way flex between solo lanes and the support. Does have a lot of team fighting power on the Yordle in a mech suit.
Indeed, we'll see what the response is here from AXZ. Rumble has, of course, been flexed around quite a lot. You know, it can be down in the mid, can be down in the bot, as well as the top.
Picked up. Yeah.
But Aphelios, pretty standard pick. And of course, the Jarvan has got through the pretty standard pickup for Hoglet too.
Yeah, you don't want to give the Hawks the hot pot combo where you have the Cataclysm into the Equalizer. It's just really nasty engage and can shut down these immobile, well, dashless AD carries, such as the Aphelios pretty easily. So now I'm very interested in the Hawks. What do you draft next, and how do you hide where this Rumble is going? Because we do know it's a flex pick, but do they want to pick another priority champion in a lane where it could be picked? So they pick up the Senna, one of the other S tier AD carries, does give you that wombo combo potential alongside the Equalizer.
Yeah, and we'll see if there's going to be something else to round out this competition. Are they going to sort of reveal where this Rumble is going yet? It's still kind of open. Maybe a jungle is an option here. There's still a couple things available. Lee Sin comes to mind. Tom Kencho is picked up, so that means it's either mid or top Rumble.
Yeah, so we know that this isn't going to be the Rumble support. That was the only other time that we have seen this pick. Some fun hovers over from AXZ. I mean, it'd be pretty fun if it was a Fizz. I like that kind of pick myself. I love my AP Assassins. But yeah, so the Tom Kench been picked up. We're very strong in lane with the Senna. Gives a lot of peel for that AD carry. It's the Thresh picked up for AXZ though.
Yeah, so the OCE import will be picking up the Thresh. See how well he can keep his Aphelios alive and whether he can pull off some good death sentences. Lee Sin now banned, of course, hitting that jungle pool because the Hawks have yet to pick one up. And Tussle had a great game on Lee Sin the other week as well.
Yeah, he did. The Rek'Sai's still available, so maybe that'll be the other ban, but then there's still something a bit further out there, like the Shin's out, which could also be picked up as well.
Yep, of course, Zoe taken away. Strong mid lane, not really an assassin, but seems to do enough damage to count as one.
She gets far enough ahead, she is. And Ramane has shown that he really likes to pick up stuff like the LeBlanc and other things. This could actually be bans away from Gariaru just to make a Rumble more survivable in the mid lane.
Gragas taken away from Tussle as well, who just played that and did very well on it too. So that's two fairly high priority junglers taken off the board. You are right that the Jhin Zhao is still available. Maybe he goes that way. Rek'Sai still on the board as well, so maybe that's another option.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll just have to see what hustle's been picked up and practicing. And it is the LeBlanc. The Zoe and LeBlanc filling somewhat similar roles as that kind of bursty AP, somewhat assassin champion. The LeBlanc being further towards that than the Zoe, but they both have the ability to one-shot your poor backline.
Indeed, they do. Hyde is taking the Orianna for Gariadu, though. Nice, solid control mage in the mid lane.
This is a champion I've wanted to see so much more out of the LJL. I think that the Orianna does have a lot of ability to scale into the mid and late game, allows you to play into team fight styles that the LJL does like to do as well, as opposed to something like the Rise, which have gone towards before, which forces you into a bit more of side lane presence. There is the Xin Zhao that we talked about before being hovered. See if it's actually locked in, though.
It is. So you go. So it's going all now being hovered, which would make it for a lot of sense. Can still flex between the mid and the top side. That is locked in.
Yeah.
Orianna, of course, speaking about back to that point, the ball has got a delivery system in the Jarvan as well, which is really nice. The Cataclysm comes down with the ball on top of Jarvan. Nice big shockwave ultimate. Please pick up the Shaco. Do it for me.
And this time it won't be the Bard. Gotta hope so, because the Thresh has already been locked in. It'd be a very strange draft.
I mean, you could see a Jarvan top maybe. It would be a bit off.
What? Bar jungle then? Yeah,
yeah,
sure,
I'd see that. I'd be down with that.
And it looks like it is the Aatrox,
much more standard.
AXIZ have picked themselves up a really good 5v5 composition when they get to dive the backline. But on the other side, there's just so much range out of the Call of the Forge Guard, the Equalizer, and the Dawning Shadow as well. So
it's the Carpets of Doom one more time.
Yeah, no Kiana this time, no Indiana Jones, no Keanu Jones or whatever we're going to do with that.
What to think about that one?
Yeah, but what this does mean is that AXIZ, they do have many ways to win team fights. Obviously, the Aatrox can carry a team fight on his own right. Then you have the scaling of the Aphelios and the Orianna with the utility and positioning afforded to you by the Thresh and his Lantern, and of course the Cataclysm from the Jarvan. But it's basically, can they survive to that point? So we see the coaches shake hands and walk off stage. I'm really looking forward to this one, actually.
Yeah,
very unique draft.
Drafts.
Very unique draft. Perhaps the most competitive draft that I've seen so far out of two teams.
Yes, definitely. And there's definite team fight options for both teams. I think both are going to be looking for those team fights, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Like the Equalizer, Call of the Forge God, Dawning Shadow, all coming down. But on the other side, you've got Aphelios, Moonlight Vigil, Shockwave, Cataclysm, all doing pretty good area effect team fight damage as well.
Yeah, and I guess one of the bonuses for the side of the Hawks against that is that they do have the Tahm Kench to survive one of the carries if they are to be caught up in that big combo. It does mean that you can perhaps save either Ramune or Honey from the massive burst combo that can come out of AXIZ.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Who are you favouring at this point, with the drafts being fairly even?
So at this point, I think if you gave these to two different teams, maybe I would if you switch the compositions, maybe I would favor AXIZ's composition. But I feel like there's an execution value onto AXIZ's comp, where it means that you have to survive the Equalizer. You have to survive so many different things. A random W route from the center can just end your team fight combo. And I feel like because of that and the pressure for AXIZ to dodge and survive so much before they can get their combo off means that Hawks should probably have the advantage.
Yeah. I half wonder about where the pressing lanes will be in the first couple levels, though. I imagine Aphelios and Thresh will have a little bit more threat in the lane.
From what we've seen before, Aphelios Thresh is actually a really good combo. So we do see a bit of a pause come in. Maybe might just be a quick audio issue. So as is tradition, when we have a pause, we do like to invite our producer and host, the lovely Mass One, back onto the cast if he's so ready for it. We don't like to interrupt him too much, obviously. He's got a lot of things going on.
I'm here, don't worry.
He is here, he's not that busy.
I'm paying attention. I just had to
We could have
quickly...
insulted him otherwise if he was not paying attention.
I had to do like 4 things very quickly, but I did it. I'm starting to get Faker levels of responses where I can move my mouse across the screen very quickly.
That's impressive work.
He's actually upped his DPI on his mouse.
100%, like by a country mile by doing all of this. So I personally really like how AXIZ have actually drafted this comp.
Yeah, so do I.
I think this is a really nice teamfight comp, especially with the Orianna Jarvan. That's a really nice combo. Obviously, you get the Aatrox, who can just basically keep scaling up to this point with a very reliable... The bot lane is a bot lane we've seen countless times, relatively speaking.
Yeah, as far as you can say from 16 games.
Exactly. So I'm not super surprised about that. We've also seen that bot lane in countless other regions as well.
Absolutely.
So that's not surprising. I am interested in Ramune's Rumble.
So am I.
That's super exciting. As you said, we've only seen Rumble one other time. That was in week
support
1. and it went I can't remember.
Support for Sengoku.
Sengoku,
0-0-10,
and they went 0-0-10.
Wow.
That was insane with a Senna as well on that team. So and an Orin as well. So is that kind of a comp that you do? Do you play Senna with an Ornn with a Rumble, because then that helps set up that Cataclysm?
I think it allows you to
that's the
nuke
ult.
someone with the yeah. You get to nuke both of them.
You do indeed.
With your layered ults, just the line skill shots covering most of the map.
But we have gone back into game, so I will now depart away and let you guys go back to working.
Masked Swan away, but I didn't do anything.
It's fine, he's there, he disappears back to the role of producer. But we've seen some jungle starts here. Tussle starting over on the blue buff, and everyone else back into lane. Jarvan going straight from red to blue, maybe looking for that early level 2 gank that Jarvan is so notorious for.
You know that might have been the first anime reference we've made on cast. The Sailor Moon thing, you know. Like,
No, I'm sure,
So
surely we've made more. I can nearly guarantee we've made more. There's been some JoJo references with Dio and Set. Like, there's been a few of those. Like, I can even get this Pokemon count. We did have that conversation around Bard and his unfortunate meat hoarding tendencies.
I see Union actually trading pretty well into Dash there with the early Conqueror.
We'll see how this goes. I mean, like, actually, interestingly, it's these Honey and Pooh pushing in against the Aphelios and the Thresh early on, which was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, they hit the early level 2, but it doesn't look like it's ended up in any kind of CS lead. Maybe they're just waiting for Hoglet to come down, actually.
Maybe that would be. He's going to be able to flag a drag into that bush. He is there. Just got to wait for the cooldown.
6 seconds, count it down. Let's see if they can get anything out of this.
They've pushed up. Honey's walking forwards. He's got to be so careful, but the Devour will be available for this. And that's up. They're here. They're good to go. That's a good Devour, but that means the Devour is now down. They're going to go on. That's a nice flash, but it means that Pooh's still got him. But Tussler's here, and the TP is here. Look at that damage. Level 2 on the Xin Zhao, but he doesn't get Rumble. Overheating. First blood to Ramone.
Oh, and an overstep in their boundaries by AXIZ. Hoglet comes in, commits the flash onto Pooh, who already flashes directly into him, and then the teleport comes in next level from Ramone. Doesn't get stopped by Gauriaru. Obviously, no cancel on the teleport up until that level 6 point with the shockwave, and this is disaster for the Aphelios.
Oh, it is, and it looked so good, but the thing is, if I know about Jarvan coming in for early ganks, SoftBank Hawks certainly do. Let's look at this again.
So I think basically the whole early laning phase is set up so the Jarvan can gank this lane. We see the double flash, bit of an interesting interaction there. And Pooh does take a lot of damage. Tussle flashes in. Level 2 Xin Zhao is actually doing a lot of damage at this point and gets both summoners away from both members of the AXZ bot lane.
But Tussle, Ramone, Pooh all burn flash themselves. So there's a lot of very vulnerable members on this team.
Yeah, what this does mean is that Unyan really shouldn't be fearing anything in top lane. Not that you should anyway. Top lane's an island, right? No one cares about that lane. Especially not in the pro level, apparently.
So we'll see how this goes. Unfortunately, that means Gario didn't burn his teleport, so he's got a CSD over here. But it has been first blood over. Ramone's quite happy to have traded that and saved his bot lane's life.
Yeah, so what this does mean is that as much as it's a fun play, it is a lot of resources to get one kill and a lot of summoners out of bot lane. And what this does mean is that the Orianna doesn't really have to be afraid of anything in the mid lane. You can actually freeze this up against her own turret. It's going to slowly start pushing out as that cannon minion just died there. And we can already see a 10 CS lead coming in for Gauriaru. Did obviously not commit the teleport to that gank themselves. And what that means is that hopefully AXIZ will have themselves a way, even though they lost that first kill, to scale up on this Orianna in towards these first couple of fights.
Indeed. And actually, what it also means is for somehow, some way, Hyde didn't lose any real CS there. He's about even with the Senna, which is pretty good work for AXIZ.
You know, we mentioned scaling quite a lot. In fact, it's mentioned so often on the broadcast in LCK that it's kind of become the S word. You know, you're not allowed to say that word too much because it just becomes too much of an easy fallback. But luckily, we have a solution. Obviously, there are many references and many other terms we can use instead of scaling.
Do tell me. I think I know where you're going with this, but do tell me.
Well, you know, I like to think about the region that we're in and what happens when people are waiting for that big power spike, and all I can think about is charging the Spirit Bomb. And that's effectively exactly what AXIZ are doing. They're waiting until they get this massive combo into the late game, where 8 episodes of inanimate screaming from Gauriaru and Hoglet will eventually lead to one cataclysmic team fight. You have to hope. So
yeah, well,
we'll
until
wait for
that
them to do
Spirit
that.
Bomb is released, the Kamehameha is released, but until that point, the Infernal Drake will help with that charging. So nice
It will
pick up
do,
there
yeah, it's
early
good.
from Hoglip.
Yeah, it is, and obviously all of the people on, besides obviously the Thresh, who doesn't really make too much use of those adaptive stats, that means that they're going to make some good use out of all of that damage being afforded to them. As we said, they are looking for a wombo, looking for some kind of big team fight into the later stages of the game.
Well, let's have a look through at some of these items. It is the early penetration boots from the Rumble. Quicker roams from the mid lane, able to get his equalizer down, which is not quite available yet, but Shockwave now available for Gariaru, and that will be a scary point alongside both top laners.
Oh,
and that's a good hook, but there's a Devour still available. Devoured out of the Flay, and that'll be the end of that. Nice.
The root actually
Yeah, it's a nice last
there.
embrace. Hyde's going to take a little bit of damage, but the shield from the Dark Passage keeps him safe.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if this is the first Senna game that we've seen from Honey. We've seen him a couple of times on the Aphelios and the MF, but yeah, this is the other S tier pick. This is probably the S tier. Well, I say S tier pick because this is the AD carry which people tend to go towards after MF and the Aphelios, but we don't see it so much as a first pick.
At least not in the LJL.
No, which is why I'm a little bit surprised that teams are suddenly starting to turn onto it as well. Maybe it's only when they have the Rumble, like we were saying. Maybe it's only when you want to have that massive AoE team fight.
Indeed, but we'll have to pay attention to that. I do think Senna is very strong, has a lot of poke, has a lot of healing. That Dawning Shadow is such a powerful tool. The root on a low cooldown is good stuff.
I also think it's a really good combo with Ornn as well. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit when it's been shown here as well. It's Ravenna just walking up and doing the little Electro Harpoon trade. When you deal with tanks on the front line, and Tahm Kench is also a very tanky champion as well, they build a lot of resistances, which means that each point of health is harder to take away from them. So when you heal them for a flat amount, it means that that heal is worth more because you're healing a tank. Senna obviously has the heal on her Q and has a shield on her ultimate. It means that she's very good at making these tanks even tankier.
All right, a little bit of battle warding occurring. Onyan rather spots out Tussle in the jungle on the Shinto, who has ticked over to 6, ahead of Hogler on this Jarvan. So could look for a Crescent Guard from after an audacious charge and get some serious damage down. His flash is back up, having burned it in the bot lane too, but Rift Herald spawned and Hoglet's on it as it spawns, and Hyde is here too, coming up.
Yeah, and actually, so they're going for this 8-minute Herald again. We've seen that a couple of times from this team in particular, and also across the world. Although we have a teleport from the Senna coming in.
Right, we're looking at about first fight. The chains do land from Lunia, but it's it. Like the Rift Herald's down to just under 1,000 HP as of about now.
Ramade's dead.
Stuff. Ramade's just gone. Doesn't get to use the equalizer, and now look at that Ornn Horn coming through. But that's Rift Herald now taken for access. Good stuff from them.
And that fight was building up to be a massive, promised, big ultimate team fight, but Ramane just gets caught out by Corporal. Great hook from the OCE import, as we've said before, and and now we get the Herald into top lane. AXIZ have found themselves a window of opportunity to start pushing their advantage.
Great pick, and Pooh wasn't there with the Devour to save him, or at least not in time, and it was a good shockwave follow-up, and that means a lot of damage now onto this top lane tier 1. Good plate buy for all of them.
Yeah, and the thing about the Tahm Kench is that you can only be in one place at once.
Yes.
I think Ramane walked in there. Hopefully, we'll see a bit of a replay of that as well. See what happened there. But very good commitment of all of the different ultimates from AXIZ. They committed the Shockwave to finish off that kill, and the World Ender as well, I believe. That is also on cooldown, and I think that was exactly the point you needed to do that. If you don't get that pick, you're in for a bit of a nasty team fight because the Rumble ultimate would soon come down after.
And that's earned AXIZ about a 300 gold lead, or 200 gold lead, which is not a lot, but considering where they have been, that's a nice little turnaround.
It is nice because when we're looking at the CS numbers, top lane relatively even. Mid lane going in the favor of Gadiaru, but mainly due to the early teleport from Ramane. But the bot lane is definitely going in the favor of Honey and Pooh. 20 CS lead over to the Senna against the Aphelios in the bot lane.
That's what Hyde gets for roaming for that Rift Hold. Has run with the heal rather than the teleport. Honey got to clear the wave and then teleport to that fight, or attempt to teleport to that fight rather, because it kind of ended a bit too swiftly before a true team fight began. But it has led to a pretty significant CS lead for Honey.
Yeah, and actually we do see a lot of teleports taken on Senna, and this is one of the things we see a lot of out of the EU, out of NA as well. They really like this Senna pick, less so in the LCK, but you take the teleport on the Senna because you already have a heal on your Q, you have a heal on your ultimate, and it means that you can kind of turn up to these early Herald fights for the first big fight of the game.
Indeed, and it does allow you to potentially get that pressure in lane. Sivir, of course, another one that used to run a teleport occasionally. Ezreal occasionally used to be able to run that.
That was back when teleport was
I
better than it
know,
was.
of course. But there was, of course, that option to run it on certain AD carries who just
Well,
want to farm.
all of them after a
Yeah,
point,
it
right?
was indeed.
It's only so the reason people started going back towards heal is that basically a lot of new champions were released, a lot of different supports kind of entered into the meta, which meant that a lot of previously quite stale 2v2s became kill lanes. So we saw stuff like Volibear come in, Yuumi as well, and it meant that yeah, so it meant that you were trying to like kill off a lane which was running the teleport, the Yuumi and stuff like that. Obviously, not in the meta anymore. But yeah, what we do see here is the heal over on the Aphelios and the teleport over on center, which is why it's relevant to talk about this stuff.
Alright, Ocean Drake has started. Ornn is roaming down. This is looking like another one of those
huge.
fights. Black Mist is down, but Unyan is in, but he's taking a lot of damage. That's a Cataclysm now, but people have flashed out, and suddenly Unyan is very low, and he's been stunned by the last embrace. Hyde throws.
Oh, he misses it!
He just caught Dasher. That's it. All he caught. Nothing happening. Gary Aaron now taking a lot of damage, and that equalizer is down, but doesn't hit all that much, and that's going to be the end of the fight. But AXIZ has been zoned off. Ramune thinking about backing off along with the rest of the Hawks, and it's a restart by AXIZ, and the fight continues. But ultimates are kind of largely down. There is still a shockwave. That ball is on there now. Look at the ball placement. AXIZ Corporal's taking out damage.
Oh,
shockwave, but it's not that much damage. But look at the damage now. Corporal slays Tom Kedge, and look at Hyde. He's doing a lot of damage as well. The Severum now onto this Drake, and I think that's going to be 2 kills somehow, some way for AXIZ in that fight.
Oh, and we waited a while for it. I thought that if that Gravitum ult hit from Hyde there, that could have been a clean team fight wipe from AXIZ there, as they would have caught 3 people with the Devour down. As it stands, they do get 2 members of Hawks into the Death Realm, and they also take the second dragon of the game for themselves, the Ocean Drake. This is a really good fight for AXIZ, actually. Okay, so what we see here first is that Unyan comes in, actually, unfortunately, puts Hyde at the other side of the wall, so less of that consistent damage coming through. And what we see here is almost the route onto 3 people. Could have been Galliardo walking forward for a massive shockwave. So, Galliardo gets caught by the Ornn ult into the center ult, but the equalizer isn't actually ticking down on the Orianna. They walk back into the river, they kind of start posturing again, but at this point, the hook lands from Corporal, comes in, and then the fight is re-engaged. Then a lot of the members are caught up into the shockwave combo, and at that point, once the front line of Xin Zhao has gone down, there isn't really much left for them to be fighting around.
Absolutely, we've seen a lot of damage, and that's suddenly a 30 CS lead for this Orianna with the GLP completed, and that's going to be just damage. It's really nice early stuff from AXIZ.
It is, yeah, and while it did take a couple of tries to get that right, I think that this shows what a good comp the AXIZ have drafted right. I think that they're managing to find themselves these openings to get the good shockwave in, as we saw there. And we also saw it around the Herald as well, picking up Ramune before he could use his ultimate. And also a little bit of criticism for the Hawks. I think that you can't afford to use, or well, waste your ultimates. Be less valuable with them. If you're trying to kill Galliardo, you need to be sure that if you're only hitting one target, it's got to be a surefire kill and that you can win the fight without your ultimates afterwards. What we saw there was that after the Dawning Shadow and the Equalizer came down, they didn't really have the damage to threaten AXIZ after that. We see the ults come in.
This is a little bit better. Gario now caught on this, has no flash. He's going to be in so much trouble. Gets lanterned out to safety. That was clutch stuff, and actually a lot of damage onto Ramune and Tussle in the trade
that was actually a mix between the shockwave landing onto the 2 members there and also the Infernum ult. It was ults traded for ults, and Galliardo just about gets out with Corporal's Lantern.
Yeah, but as we said, plate's now fallen, and that was nearly a nice turnaround for the Hawks. But good lantern out and good turnaround damage keeps things as they are. Status quo maintained.
I have to say, the more I see Thresh in these games, the more I'm convinced it's a really valuable pick for the LJL. I think that Braum was mentioned a little bit in the preseason by certain people, certain personalities on Twitter. But I think that Thresh has shown himself to be a very useful champion with the Lantern and with the pick CC available. And actually also the box, just to buy a little bit of space in these team fights for the less mobile backliners that we tend to see in this meta.
Okay, so we are seeing a second Herald start, and this will be the 4th objective take of the game for AXIZ in terms of neutrals, and that's a big deal. It's not going to be contested this time. Ultimates were burned trying to catch out Guerrero in the mid lane, and that means it is an easy pickup for AXIZ, and that means more damage onto these structures. And of course, the top lane turret had gone down, was already very low, and Aatrox take that means they can use the Rift Herald either mid or bot, depending on where things are pushing. And it's looking really good for AXIZ, who've pulled themselves up to about a 2.5, 3k gold lead.
Yeah, and a lot of that is actually coming through the mid lane. I think Galliardo has been the shining light for AXIZ on the first couple of games, and now you see him up to a 45 CS lead against Ramune, who's currently taking Wolves just to try and up his levels and his CS a little bit. He's actually currently 2 levels down against the Orianna, who's sitting at level 11 has that second tier of ultimate, whereas Ramune is at level 9, not even close to that second level yet.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff from Garyadu. Of course, Hoglet as well has pulled off some good stuff, some good cataclysms. Has 100% kill participation right now. As in fact does
most of the
Thresh.
team, actually.
Well, the Thresh and the Orianna as well. I was about to say that's looking really good. I say, wait, no, that's a lot of people who managed to do that as well. But it's saying that a lot of this power or the victories that AXZ have been pulling out in the game so far have been through team play, through the wombo combos they've managed to draft.
Yeah, and we actually see that the Herald is still on Hoglet here. We'll see if they'll try and break down the mid lane turret with that. Thing is, though, like the
Hyde taking a bit of damage.
Bit of a walk forward
Honey
onto
is still
Hyde there.
pretty strong. Has got a 30 CS lead himself, right? So there
Honey
is
yeah.
so it's some pretty good stuff for this center. Doing some good stuff. Hoglet now over the wall, thinking about going in. Maybe we've got a Drake spawning in 30 seconds, so a fight is definitely brewing.
So Orianna just recalled from top lane, doesn't have the teleport available, and they really want to open up the fight with the shockwave, or at least try and get it early into the fight, so that damage is down and they can remove one of the members of this Hawks team.
Yeah, Ramune at least has now ticked up to level 10. Not quite at that rank 2 equalizer though, which is a bit of a shame. Probably a little ways off this, but has picked up the Leandri's Torment, which is going to be a lot of damage.
He's still going to do a lot of damage in these fights. So they might even try and delay it until he has the rank 2 ultimate, just to make sure that they can burn down these the Orianna and Hyde, obviously, on side of AXZ. Because actually what we saw when they committed the ultimates to Gagliardo in that mid lane fight was that actually they very nearly killed him with just the ultimates.
Okay, we're seeing the regular Rift Herald trade to force pressure in the mid lane while AXZ rotates towards his dragon. Second Rift Herald is being dealt with by the Hawks, but AXZ again on this Air Drake, and it is another Cloud Rift.
It is, and they will be getting that ultimate cooldown, and they'll be very quickly getting themselves to Soul points. The Cloud Soul, giving them the 10% move speed, is actually pretty nice in this particular composition, because they do want the ability to run out of the Ornn ulti, and also just give themselves a bit of time to reposition against this team of the Hawks.
Yeah, and once again, we've seen AXZ out. When they have been doing well, it's been in these early lanes into early leads. We have to see whether their mid game can be a little cleaner. But of course, let's have a look about where the win conditions are. Like at this point, we're about 17 minutes into the game. Where are you sort of seeing the next few minutes go? Of course, we've seen the Soul as a good option for AXZ, but how about Hawks? Well, how are they going to get back into this game? They're not that far behind, but where are they going to be looking to turn things around?
Well, I think actually Hawks is definitely at a point of power, or they soon will be. They really want the level 11 onto the Rumble, and I think that'll be where they'll start trying to fight around a couple of things. I think it wasn't bad of them to try and look for that pick onto Gagliardo in the mid lane, particularly when there were no objectives available. Obviously, both Heralds are down now, and the Dragon won't be up for some time. I don't think they'll be ready to fight around this Baron anytime soon either. They'll probably wait until 23, 24 minutes until they start thinking about taking that, because obviously the Senna is not great at taking Baron. She isn't fantastic at killing the very high HP epic monsters. She's okay at taking Dragon, but Baron is a little bit of a step too far.
Well, she's just picked up a Duskblade, so she's at a pretty strong point. Yeah. And what does it mean that this Xin Zhao has only really gone 0-1-1? Like, what options does Tussle have at this point?
Well, I think a lot of that is because they committed so many early summoners to that one kill in the bot lane, right? What tools do they have left if they don't have the flash Xin Zhao available to them? As we see just a bit of pushing into the mid lane here.
Yeah, Hyde has got a Severum up and a bit of a shield as a result.
I think both of these teams are looking for something in the mid lane, or at least being there in case something does start.
Yeah, of course. We're still seeing Eunyan doing pretty well. Up in this top side, got his Black Cleaver complete, working towards a Death Dance. Sunfire Sheen complete over for the Ornn. That means probably a Frozen Heart coming in up there.
Yeah, he's just upgraded his Sunfire Cape as well, so we're starting to get those coming through.
Some Flat Pen in for this Orianna, though, who's gone for the Oblivion Orb.
Yeah, so it has gone towards the Oblivion Orb, but actually looks like it's heading towards the full Morellonomicon. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that, because
it's a Dawning Shadow. It's a lot of healing from the center, I suppose.
Yeah, but the thing about if you think about the role of Orianna in a team fight, she's trying to literally just blow up the first person that comes through. They do have the heal on the Tahm Kench and the heal from the center as well. But if you're looking to kill the team in the duration of the shockwave into the dissonance combo, you're going to do a lot more damage. If you go towards something like a Death Cap after just the Oblivion Orb pen, or go maybe towards something like a Void Staff instead of finishing off the Morello.
Yeah, could be problematic, especially though I suppose there is some room for the Oblivion Orb to be picked up, or the Morello to be picked up and then move towards it, especially if there's going to be a bit of downtime between these objective fights.
So if you think about how much it costs to upgrade an Oblivion Orb into a Morellonomicon is 1400 gold.
Yes.
1400 gold is the same as an easily large rod. That's 60 AP. You don't get 60 AP from upgrading your Morellonomicon. You get something like 20 or 40. It's not that much. It gives you a little bit, and it obviously gives you the Grievous Wounds and a little bit of HP too. But if you think about if it gets you closer to a Void Staff, which gives you that incredible passive, giving you like 40% magic resist shred. Hoglet just running into Tussle here.
Indeed, and Tussle, Hoglet has gone in. He's going to have to lantern himself out, but Unyan is here as well, looking on Tussle. Tussle still has to Aggressive Guard, and that's a nice auto attack to get himself out of trouble.
Okay, well, no ultimates or big cooldowns used there, so I think Axe is just playing around a little bit there. Not
Unyan continuing to be aggressive. Hoglet's still here. Trading on to the Ornn is this Aatrox. But that's bit much about nothing. And this sort of lull state continues. The Cloud Drake will be coming up about a minute, and I assume that'll be the next fighting, the next fight, probably, surely.
I think it has to be because it'll be the Cloud Soul coming up. And also, we look at this, there's a 60 CS lead for Gadiaru onto Ramune. This guy's been playing so well in this laning phase, learning how to... He's definitely shown that he knows how to abuse his strong laning champion of Orianna.
Yeah, and on the other side, Ramune's actually just been struggling to find farm. Like, he's been sharing farm with Honey in the mid lane, can't find his way out to a side lane currently.
We've been partaking in the traditional JRAM, everyone grouping up mid, making sure that no one can fire off their teamfight ultimates and pick off people as they move into the side lane.
On the other hand, Rumble is well known for being that champion that is still effective on a limited budget, and he's hit the level 11, so he has at least got rank 2 equalizer, and that's the thing that's
doing a lot.
he is more than ready to fight, even if he is a little further behind than he would like, especially having picked up First Blood.
Yeah, Hook just misses onto Tussle there, who's just hanging out, trying to get some of that ward control down.
Alright, we are going to see a little bit of a scuffle over the vision control in this red side, or the river bush for the Drake. Just about completed, though another pink ward goes straight down, and the fight will continue.
Yeah, and we now see that the Cloud Dragon is live. Unyan just heading towards the bot lane, making sure that's clearing out. But Dasha's getting into position, just seeing if he can use the Call of the Forge Guard perchance.
Yeah, of course, Curse the Black Mist available for Senna, can keep people invisible and untargetable, but that's not going to matter if the Qs come through and hit people in that anyway.
And actually, one of the big things about this fight is that both bot lane towers are still available. And that means that you don't get any of these massive flanks coming in without any of those retreat options available to them. Honey just clearing out some wards in there as well, and with just fighting over mid lane priority once again. Unyan might actually be able to take this bot tower here as trade, though.
Yeah, he's going to just go for it, and yep, that's done. But we're watching as the Hawks go in to here. GLP did just get used, but that's a route on to the Orianna, who's going to be a little bit late to this party as a result. Yeah. But Cloud Drake now started by the Hawks.
AXZ have to funnel in through this part of the river here. This could be really dangerous to them.
And Unyan is behind off vision, but they must know he's there. They must know he's not left.
The ball is just hanging.
Oh, flash in! To flash in on this. That's a good crescent gun. Gary is taking so much damage, and that equalizer is burning the Orianna. He's gone! Rumble's gone, and Ramane's dead. Dash is now in trouble as well. He's doing as much damage as he can, but looking at that flash out from Corporal, trying to find a lantern now. Hoglet's flashed out as well, and Unyan is now in a 1 versus 2, trying to get onto Honey, who flashes away from the third Q from this Aatrox, who's going to go down as well. That's another kill, and that is 2 for none, and a Drake secure for Sengoku. So SoftBank Hawks.
Hawks find their fight. Gadiaru finally gets picked off, doesn't manage to get the fantastic ultimates that we managed to see in 2 of the fights in this game, and now that they have their soul, delayed by another dragon spawn as well. Great fight for the Hawks. This buys them a lot more time and space in this game.
That was a fantastic flash from Tussle to start that up, and a great equalizer this time from Ramune.
Okay, so we're going to go into this replay here. So, the Hawks managed to get towards the dragon first, get themselves a bit of positioning, and Tussle has a flash in, uses his ult, and then that CC's Gadiaru enough for the Senna ult to come down, and then this level 11, Leandri's buffed Rumble ult just finishes off the Orianna. Hyde flashes out as well, and at that point, the damage is gone from AXZ. There's nothing left for them, and all their ults are already spent. There's nothing left for them here, and that's pretty much the end of the fight. Unyan just has to kind of stay there and kind of be sad that his team lost the fight.
Yeah, that was a bit of a miserable one there. Like, that could have been a game-defining moment. That would have been the soul for AXZ, but actually suddenly the Hawks are back to within 1,000 gold lead. This Orianna is shy of flash, Hoglet is shy of flash, Corporal is shy of flash, Hyde is shy of flash.
Yeah, so in that fight as well, it's worth noting that Gadiaru didn't necessarily flash late, because actually, it might have looked like that. You could think, well, why didn't you just flash earlier? The ultimate from Xin Zhao does give you a brief knockback, And that did mean that Gallardo was CC'd for that duration and then flashed, cast the ultimate, but then the ultimate of Rumble landed on her. You also CC'd while you're casting Shockwave. So a couple of key moments of half-second CC onto Gallardo meant that he lost a lot of HP.
And that is the risk when you draft in a mobile mid laner. Orianna doesn't have much way to get out of things outside of standing on her own dissonance. And that's difficult to do when you wanted to use that for damage. But here we go, another fight. That's
this is a big ult.
That's an Infernum available for that, but that's a massive, massive
huge.
equalizer. And look at that, Hyde has just been roasted to death. Look at that orbital bombardment coming in from Ramonena. And a Gallardo is shut down again. It's a double for this Rumble. And the dunk doesn't even go through. That's a clean 4 for none.
Oh yeah, Onion just about survives just by the luxury that he wasn't there. And honestly, AXIZ, you didn't do your homework, you didn't do your due diligence. You walked in as a clumps group versus the ultimates of the Hawks, and you get roasted alive. That was some fantastic comboing by the Hawks. I'm going to have to stop using that word at some point. But there's a lot of damage coming through from the Hawks, and it gets them the clean ace. Well, not quite the clean ace, but the clean 4 for none, and also the Baron. This game has turned on a knife edge.
It has. It was 2 teamfight victories of 2 fantastic equalizers that have seen this game shift fortunes away from AXIZ.
Okay, as we see here, they walk straight into the Ornn ult, which sets up for the equalizer, sets up for the Dawning Shadow as well. They're all clumped up. They all get hit by everything. This is getting pretty much maximum value out of everything the Hawks have to offer. You see the damage that Gallardo has. If you manage to lead off with the Shockwave, this fight is very different. But obviously, it is not the Hawks which are clumped. It is AXIZ, and they are punished accordingly.
The Hawks are clearly Disney fans. We've seen the Winnie the Pooh references. That one was an Aladdin one. Took them on a magic carpet ride.
Wow.
Come on, that was good. Don't do this.
I don't know whether I should, like...
But, like, where earth do AXIZ go from here? Like, they're hitting this point now where all these carpets are coming down, and they're struggling to find a way out of these fights.
I was actually going to go with the Hunchback of Notre Dame singing Hellfire.
Okay, that's good stuff.
There's a good amount of stuff we can go through with that.
Another time.
We were both Disney kids. We have to make these references at some point. But actually, really well played by the Hawks. They've managed to find their win conditions, find the openings presented to them. And this is why at the start of the game I was running, if you switch
another
these compositions
ult coming,
around,
and I'm going to have to stop you because actually the Ornn just goes wide, so never mind, keep going.
It does go just a bit wide because the Lantern was there from Corporal, who's actually had some good games on the Thresh today. He's had 2 of them. I think that Corporal has been playing very well himself. But yeah, I think that if you switch these compositions around, I feel like perhaps AXIZ's comp it does have some advantages over the Hawks. But even then, AXIZ, not to discredit the players, found those 2 early fights, found the early advantages. And while they are sitting at, I think he's fine. He has the flash available to him.
Might have to use it. Yep, does burn it. He's out now.
Yeah, it's at the cost of Aatrox's flash. They use the Abyssal Voyage for it, but honestly, the Tarmkanch ultimate is much less value than it has been in recent seasons, where you used to use it as this semi-global ability. Obviously, the first couple of ranks of it, pretty low range now, up until you get to level 16, which supports don't really get in the current meta.
But the Baron Baron push continues. Some towers finally on the board properly for the Hawks.
Was that the Baron Puff girls?
The Baron Puff?
The Baron Powerpuff play.
So it's like we could...
Hogwarts walking in here. I don't think you want to be there, dude.
I don't think he does. That's for sure. I was trying to think of I'm trying to think of all the things that went into the Powerpuff Girls. We'll go into a Baron Puff Girl.
Well, apparently a Rumble Equalizer, Dawning Shadow, and also the Call of the Forge God. That's what I would say.
That's pretty good. It's a pretty nasty combination. But
Okay,
it means
so
another one of these air drakes goes away. The Hawks AXIZ can go nowhere near it. Can't claim that soul.
well, just chokes on a cup of tea there. But yeah, what this does mean, again, AXIZ really not in with a shout of getting the soul this game. I think that they've really lost most of the agency that they had. I think AXIZ's comp is really at its most strong when they get access to the objective that they're fighting on before the Hawks did. And that worked before Rumble could go into these side lanes and start clearing the waves very effectively. It was when Orianna had the mid lane priority, and that's just not going to happen now. So I think that Hawks are probably going to slowly bleed out AXIZ over the next couple of minutes up until... and this game reaches its natural conclusion.
And of course, Ornn items are coming through as well. It is a Wraith Blade in now for Senna with that upgrade. There is
that's a cool name.
It is, isn't it? It's the Frozen Fist, of course, is the Iceborne Gauntlet upgrade.
Wait, wasn't there an item called Frozen Fist before, or was that just the nickname for Iceborne?
I think it was just a name. I can never remember what the Sunfire Capes upgrade is, though. But actually,
Don't ask me.
that's an Abyssal Voyage top by the bot lane. Honey running a pretty significant CS lead, but of course, Aphelios still has some pretty good core items. That's an engage now onto Dasher, but I'm not sure it's going to work. That's a 5 levels down on this Ornn, and the Ornn does have to flash, but all the same time, Honey and Pooh take that top lane tier 1.
Honey, I took your towers. That's fantastic there. And apparently we've been told by the voice in our ears that it is the Forge Fire Cape.
That's a good name.
Fire Cape.
I like that. That's
good
stuff.
Considering that Ornn is also a master forger himself, he does a lot of that creating of items. God, just hit by the root there. Nothing's going to come of that.
And of course, the more that these roots land, the more the risk of equalizers, dawning shadows, and calls of said Forge God get laid down on top of her. And of course, at least this Orianna has got a flash now available, but Unyan shoving in the side lane nearly got this tier 2. Dasher not really able to stand versus the Aatrox in a sustained 1v1.
And so the problem I have with AXIZ going for that play onto Dasher, who is the tankiest member of the Hawks, with also a massive XP and health lead on most other people in this game, is that you're wasting one of your tools to get back into this game. The way that AXIZ get into this game, as all wombo combos do, is you hit the backline and you get a huge AoE combo. I think there's a very good argument to say that a wombo combo team comp is never truly out of the game, as you are with some compositions, say like a full AD team into a lot of tanks and a strong backline, something like that. But in this kind of game, when we do see that Gadiato is probably going to tick over to level 16 with 3 items, looks like he's going for the Spellbinder next, a lot of AP coming out of that. You also have the massive AoE damage coming out of the Hurricane and the ultimate of Hides. Aphelios means that, if AXIZ do find the clumped team of the Hawks, they can get back into this game. It's just that they don't have very many tools to set up for the fights before the objectives come up.
An important item purchase here for the Aphelios as well, who just picked up the Infinity Edge, so very much online, got his 3 items, got a lot of crit. But of course, Senna is on 4. She has picked up a rapid fire cannon at this point as well. So it is still looking a little bit dire for the Hawks, but Honey
might walk in here.
He's going to walk into Onion, but that's missed. Onion, you can't do that. Honey flashes away and is safe, and in fact even makes him throw a last embrace as a root at the end. Oh, that is traumatizing. So close to getting a pick there.
It's pretty close there, but again, the flashes are available from the Hawks, and the reason the flashes are available is that the AXIZ team comp can only force fights at certain points in the game at certain time intervals, and between those intervals, the flashes come back off of cooldown. You need to be finding fights, less than 5 minutes in between them before those flash times come back up, and AXIZ have only managed to find a handful of fights in this game to begin with.
And there was a massive level advantage for this Orianna. She's now equal with this Rumble, who has managed to catch up, not massively in farm, but at least in experience, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same cannot be said for Hyde on this Aphelios, who has fallen 60 CS behind Honey on the Senna, who's having another great game. Obviously, in the first game of the day, played the Aphelios and did a fantastic job of carrying on that alongside Ramene's Azir. And now the Baron has spawned. There's another...
He's on a ward, though. Thinks he's on a flank, but no, not quite.
But he also has the GA, so this Xin Zhao is still going to be a very good artificial front line with that Crescent Guard ultimate available.
The Flash Audacious Charge engages we've already seen, and it is worth saying that, of course, there is a lot of damage available. We've been seeing it all game long. AXIZ still have ways to get into this, but you're right, it is going to have to be off this Spellbinder Orianna, which is, of course, complete now, getting a really good shockwave in the backline, but I don't know how easy that's going to be now.
Well, you still have you have a hope, you have a dream, and you have a Jarvan carryable. That's what you have. You haven't managed to tick up to level 16 on the Orianna, which is kind of sad. Hogler's found his way out of vision here, but this means that, and this is the kind of point where you do want to start looking for a combo. There are 4 people clumped from the Hawks here. Let's see what's going to happen.
I'm wondering where this Jarvan is.
Tussle is also flanking.
He's here, and the Jarvan's not there. He was looking for a flank, but they didn't go for the Drake. They went for the team fight, and suddenly there's been a disengage, and Hogler's in behind looking for the re-engage, and that's a good Infernal, but incoming equalizer as well, and Ramene's flash forward. Stopwatch got the
look at the equalizer.
And roasts this Aatrox alive, and goodbye Hogler as well. And now it's a 5v3. Suddenly the Hyder's died as well, and Corporal's gone. It's just Gary alive on a sliver of HP, and Honey just survives at the end there.
Just survives. Stopwatches the Aphelios turret, who was actually hitting him from beyond the grave with that turret. And you know what? This might actually just be the game. 30 seconds are the death times for the side of AXIZ. No, they're actually backing off to get the Baron. They decide that they probably can't finish the game on this push. Maybe get an inhib, but Gadiato was still alive. Would be able to clear the wave.
Yeah, and we're looking now at Tussle down here. They're going to try and trade both objectives here. Get the Baron with the 4 and have Tussle secure the last or another air Drake. Put themselves onto Soul Point and stop AXIZ picking that up on their respawns.
There's no trade involved in this. It's getting your cake and eating it, taking the Baron and the Dragon, and getting yourself to that Soul Point does the Hawks team.
And I'm assuming this Rumble's going to back. He's got 2 large rods in his inventory, and I'm assuming that's a death cap.
Needlessly, some would say.
Why would it say that big? It's just useless. But let's look at this replay one more time. Hoglet thought he was flanking. Tussle.
Okay, so the call of the
instead.
Yeah, the call of the Forge God is good. The Shockwave only catches 2 people, and it catches the shielded Ramune and Dasher. So there's really not as much threat onto this backline as there once was before that cooldown went down. Gadiaru just walks forward onto the Equalizer and just gets roasted alive by Ramune, and at this point is effectively out of the fight. Hyde in a similar situation, even with the Severin available, just cannot heal up enough. Honey dealing so much damage to this point, barely surviving the Infernum turret of the Aphelios, but does make it out of there alive.
And I called it. There it is. The death cap is in. And of course, it's just been upgraded to a death crown. So that is all the damage in the world. This Equalizer, if it wasn't roasting already, is about as hot as the center of the earth. This thing is a monster. And like Infinity Edging for Senna, we're looking at mad damage now on the side of the Hawks. Uinyan, though, looking for a flank, but it's only onto Dasher, who's kind of stuck here. We'll see how this continues to be.
We actually see a bit of a spectator bug there, but back into game now.
And somehow the center is pushing in the top side along with 3 others, and they're trying to catch other people trying to catch the 2 in the mid lane. But Hawks are just continuing to shove. It's 4-1 split, and the rest of AXZ are late to the party.
Yeah, Gariaro has ult here, though. Might see if they can go for engage.
Gario's started, and Gariaro is in trouble, taking a lot of damage. The Dawning Shadow comes through as well. The Oriana Shockwave is available. Keep an eye on that. The Cataclysm comes through, but that's a Lantern out of said Cataclysm. And that's a massive
damage
charge
onto Aphelios.
And look at the Aphelios just gets deleted.
Oh, wow.
And goodbye Thresh, goodbye Oriana. That is going to be GG. The Hawks turn around this bad early game to be a successful team fighting, Baron stealing, Baron taking game for them.
And this is how we're going to end out the day. And they don't go out with a whimper. The Hawks go out with a bang with their team composition. Fantastic 2-0 on the day for the Hawks.
Dasher just dying on the fountain there for style points as well.
So, Master Swan must be pretty happy with the performance of your professed team in this game.
I mean, I was a little bit nervous at the beginning of that game. I was a little bit concerned. In a way, at the same time, I was like, oh, wow, AXZ could actually do this. And I was like, if they do it against the Hawks, in my eyes, and potentially others, that might be a big deal, because Hawks have already beaten the Jesters today. But the Hawks played an insane team fight comp. That as I said earlier, that Ornn with the Rumble and the Senna, it just seemed to work perfectly. And like once they hit level 12, 13, they get that second level on the ultimate. It was night and day different how the team fights went, and it was crazy to see. And I'm sad to bring up this thing. AXZ were 1-3. They had 1 or 2 turret lead, 2 dragons, both Krabbies, or 1 Krabby at least.
They got
both the Krabbies. And then promptly never got another objective except for I think bot turret maybe.
They managed to push in the bot lane a little bit.
I think Eunyan got an extra turret, but other than that, they never actually got another objective, which was so disappointing to see because it started out so well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where we called them out on this before. Like, they were in a similar-ish position when they had Hyde really fed on the Syndra in week 1. But what happens is they hit the mid-game, and they walk into random fights, and then get blown up because they don't have vision control, and get punished for it. Because actually they started that game really well. They had some beautiful combos, knew what they're doing, picked the right fights, hit the mid-game, and start picking all the wrong fights because they don't have vision control.
Well, that is definitely an awkward way to do it. They kind of misplayed that one, personally.
Yeah, I think in this game, the game really turned around at the Dragon Soul fight. You know, that second really big Dragon fight that happened.
Yes.
Where Gadiaru got caught out by a really good engage by Tussle. Fantastic game from him again on the Jinzao. I'm going to have to use some different adjectives. I'm definitely using the same ones over and over and over. But there was a lot of momentary CC, which meant that Gadiaru took all of his HP bar in ultimates. And after the shockwave threat was gone, or I think he did cast the shockwave, but just not the good shockwave, it meant that effectively the Hawks could run forward uncontested.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm just going to quickly, before we round out the cast, give you any other points you want to comment on this week in general. Any players of note for you, either of you?
Arya.
And
Arya was
nuts.
so good.
I think Arya's nuts.
Oh my days, that mid laner.
I do want to make a comment about AXIZ as a team as well, because obviously they have finished 0-4 after the first 2 weeks, which sucks for them. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think actually they might have had some of the best drafts in the league, even though they've gone 0-4. I think that they've been very different, very unique. I think their comps have very visible strengths when they play them. I think they're just not executing them as well as they can, but it's still the right step forward. They're doing good comps. On the other side, I think that obviously the other team that's drafting really well, DFM. These guys are nuts. And for me, it's now a case of who can stop DFM, not who can contest them. It's always going to be stepping up to the plate against DFM.
And there are a couple teams, I think, that have put their names in the hat to maybe contest with this sort of 4-0 DFM. I think Crest Gaming Act with Gango and Arya look like they've got some pretty solid team fight mechanics in there. The Hawks as well, I think, look pretty good. If they cannot do what they did early on in this game and get caught out by some Orianna shockwaves and stuff.
Also, homework for Sengoku, don't throw in the mid-game.
Yes, absolutely. And let's do a very quick roundup of the standings so far for the LJL 2020 Spring Standing. Currently in first place, we have Destination Focus Me with a 4-0 win streak currently. Crest Gaming tied for second with the Fukuoka SoftBank. Hawks Gaming both 3-1, definitely performing. Crest on a 2-win streak. SoftBank with a 3-win streak. Sengoku and V3 Esports and Sengoku Gaming are both 2-2, both trading their wins and their losses. Both teams we've been performing up to and slightly below expectations personally.
Bit volatile.
Yeah, very coin flippy teams sometimes. Both teams that we feel like, well, at least for me, I feel like could take a game from almost anybody, but also could lose to anybody.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, just do continue. I'll let you finish this rundown before I put this point in.
Yeah, Burning Core and Rascal Jester are coming in at 6th place, both tied for 1 and 3. I think Rascal Jester just kind of had a really unlucky week this week. They played against...
That was what I was going to call it out. But basically, Rascal Jester felt unlucky.
Yeah, 100% unlucky. They played their heart out, and I think the players shouldn't feel too bad about themselves, because I wouldn't be surprised if now, over the next few weeks, probably go on a hot streak and potentially just win out, depending on their thing. Burning Core, kind of performing to slight expectations, though their win was, I believe, against AXIZ, so... The sadly AXIZ with the 0-4 start. Hopefully they can prove us wrong, and they did perform pretty well in their 2 games today. It's just they weren't able to kind of close it in my eyes.
The second game from Ray Farkey, because of course he picked Darius twice on this particular week. First game was a little bit sad. The second game, actually, he very nearly turned around 3 or 4 team fights, but the problem with this particular meta, with the items that are available, there's flashes, there's heals, and there's stopwatch. And that meant that Darius just couldn't get the resets he wanted. And some close team fights just turned around in the favour, particularly because Arya and Gango are really good.
Yeah, I think Ray Farkey had a really good first week. I think that Burning Core can definitely start trying to play a bit more around him. I don't like Darius personally. I think that you should go back to stuff like the GP. You played really well versus Detonation Focus Me on that pick. True. I think that you showed that you could actually take it to the current best team in the league and the best record in the team. So I think that's what... I think one of the things I said in preseason was about teams realizing who their carries are. I think Burning Core have realized that it is Ray Farkey at this point. It's just finding the best tools for him to carry on.
But with that in mind, that is an end of a week. Week 3 is actually only in a few days. Crazy. This is just how the LJL works at the beginning. It
says weeks are 7 days.
It does slow down over the next few weeks, coming into week 4, week 5, and so on. But for week 3, I'm going to do a very quick rundown of the matches you have to look forward to and will be expecting. We will be covering all these matches. To begin it off, we have Rascal Jester versus AXIZ. Then we have AXIZ versus Crest Gaming Act. Following that, we have Crest Gaming Act versus V3 Esports. And then we have V3 Esports facing off against Rascal Jesters. That's that 4, which we will probably cover on that first day, maybe, potentially. I believe that's what we agreed on. It does get
Check out
difficult.
Twitter. Check out Twitter.
Our Twitter is
Tell you.
our most recent place. We always post before, and normally a day, 24 hours before we go live as well. Following that, the second half of that week will be probably the match of the week.
Ooh, yeah,
and this is going to be the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawk Gaming versus Detonation Focus Me. These are the top 2 teams currently of the LJL outside of Crest.
That could arguably be a finals.
This could be a finals match, and we're getting to see it early in week 3. I'm very excited to see. Also, we get to see the Syros and Ramune matchup, which will 100%. I'm sorry, I love you, honey, but no, that has to be the match, the week, the lane to watch everything.
Tussle v Steel, Syros v Ramune, it's all happening. And now, be there.
And this is where we all ask Riot, give us pro view for the LJL, please.
Just pro view.
Please, God, that would be so cool to just watch that matchup. Following that, we then have Burning Core versus the SoftBank Hawk Gaming. Then we have a repeat Burning Core, then against Sengoku Gaming. And then to close it out, a pretty interesting match as well. We have Detonation Focus Me versus Sengoku Gaming. And that is also potentially a contentious matchup for Game of the Week. I'm going to still give it to the Hawks, because they are higher in the standings currently.
I think based on current form, we have to say that. But it's not like it'll be a bad game. It has the hallmarks of something where Sengoku step up to the plate and show their talent.
Yes, Sengoku.
The other one I think could be great would be the Crest Gaming app versus V3. I think
100%.
Like V3 are the summer finalists. They pulled out some crazy dive comps, and Crest Gaming, Aria and Gango have been playing like heroes for that squad. So that could be a really good game.
And also the thing is that obviously Crest are currently 3-1 and V3 are 2-2. But V3 played DFM. So now, can you say that they're on the same level and they've played the same level of opponents, given that Crest have not played against V3? Not V3, played against DFM. So I think that could I think these guys could be on a similar level, but this will be the benchmark.
Yes, absolutely. And then we do also get to see V3 play against Rascal Jester, and I think Jesters are also this kind of comp.
Yeah, and they're better than their record suggests.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Miles better. They could easily be tied second. They could be in the same spot Crest was given if they were in that spot. Very easily. Crest. They also could be. They could have also gone 4-0 if their breakers had gone very differently in these early weeks. Like if they had played against some of the lower teams, who knows?
Absolutely. Strength of schedule is relevant. Very relevant.
Week 3 and also week 4 later will definitely be where teams are starting to, in theory, solidify out a little bit, kind of getting their place in the standings. But with that in mind, I'm going to throw it over to my color commentator and my play-by-play commentator. I'm going to do. You're both commentators for this one.
I've lost my magic spark.
Absolutely.
At my level now.
That's rough.
I'm going to throw it back over to you for any closing thoughts for today.
Well, my other caster might be out of mana and therefore just a regular commentator. No magic available. But it's been really fun this week. We've seen some really good games. Seen some interesting ones too. Obviously saw like the DFM backdoor and all this other stuff. It's been really fun commentating it. Can't wait for the next week.
I'm there with you. I'm so excited to see DFM play against a couple of these sort of higher up the table teams, see where they're really at. I think there could be some interesting matches. We might see the Titans fall there, or we could see them really put their stamp on the championship. This could be that point where we see, these guys have got it.
Worth their salt.
Exactly. On the other side, I'm looking forward to seeing Crest Gaming act again. I think they really impressed me. It was so exciting to watch this week. So some more of that, please. And I'll see you guys on, it'll be Saturday, I believe, won't it?
It will be Saturday. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
I believe.
Didn't have a schedule in front.
Yeah, it does get difficult to keep track of this, especially because we will basically have done 3 weeks in a week, basically, which is kind of crazy. But there's a lot of exciting games for us to look forward to next week, and we've just had a phenomenal week in and of itself. Some of these players are really stepping up and kind of showing they could be world-class talent. But with that in mind, I have been Alex, otherwise known as Lexi. I go by Mars Swan. I've had Sam Hapgood and Alex Hapgood, otherwise known as Initialize and Nymera, respectively. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the LJL Officially Unofficial, and we are tuning out. Thank you so much.